Hi everyone, welcome to the Superhuman Switch podcast. I'm your host Saf. I'll be talking with startup founders, business owners, and corporate executives striving to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Today I'm joined with a guest, Adib Samara, which is his close friend of mine, where Adib and we met back in Nestle even before 2010. He left the corporate world and he's been in the startup basically world for almost like 12 years. He's been part of the team of Careem in the UAE till 2019 when Uber bought basically the whole operations. And he's been active in the startup world as a board member, as a consultant, and he's in the venture of a couple of interesting activities in the region. So Adib,
Yeah.
so from now on I'll call you Debo because we are friends. So
All right.
saying Adib Samara is a bit weird for me, but
Look, Debo is pretty much used everywhere now, so I accept it and I own it.
yeah, no, it fits you very well, and it shows basically how warm you are as a person. Again, we had the chance to work together back in Nestle, and it was an exciting journey back then because you were in the HR. So your energy, presence during even the UAE operations or even the headquarters was amazing. But yeah, it's been a journey, and I just last time I shared with you the farewell note you shared with me. It was like okay, it's like an eardrop, like it was amazing. But yeah, Adib, if you can give the audience a little bit of your background and the journey that in the corporate world as a people person,
Yeah.
and how you moved to the business development and the startup world.
Yeah, sure. So Debo, I guess, as I'm often referred to. Yeah, look, I think for me, the corporate world, when you grow up, especially as a Lebanese, there's a lot of image around, either you're a professional doctor, lawyer, engineer, or if you are not one of these, you need to work for a reputable organization. And I think that stemmed a lot around ego and who we are and what we need to be and have success and so naturally I began my journey in that space and the first corporate business I really stepped foot into was Nestle. And I hadn't studied business. I began my education in pre-med biology. Quickly figured out that wasn't for me. Did my master's in international law. Quickly figured out that wasn't for me.
Okay.
And my entry point into the business world was people. I've always been good with people. And so I used that opportunity to enter Nestle through HR. Now, as an HR person, the traditional HR person tended to be a little serious, a little bit, they're supposed to represent what the company represents. I'm supposed to wear a suit and tie every
That's
day.
true.
Formal behavior. You're supposed to represent the ethos and the value of the business. But in the corporate world, that often did not connect with who I was. I wanted to be, loud. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy. Even if we were doing the work and we were doing the work correctly, I wanted to have fun doing it. And I think maybe that actually broke the mold within HR and gave me a lot of leeway within Nestle. And, quickly moved from HR to internal comms to eventually becoming CCSDM for coffee and beverages.
As it
And-
says in the operations of coffee, which is, I think it was an interesting journey for you to move to the commercial side of things, especially with a brand like Nescafe. And
Yeah.
I still remember basically when we worked together in the UAE operations, it was really cool to have this kind of different kind of energy where we worked together. I was managing the dairy business. And we had like a couple of common activities.
Yeah.
But you moved from the corporate world in 2010, right?
A little later, it was 2012.
Okay, yeah.
So after I took over the CCSDM role or trade marketing role for Nescafe, I launched Nescafe Dolce Gusto in the UAE market. It was so much fun. And then I was approached by one of my close friends who wanted to launch a retail brand. And, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse. financially. And to a certain extent, I was a little, or I felt like I was a little constrained within the corporate world.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to be and do and run. And so I left Nestle, shockingly. And I remember at the time, everybody was a little surprised and taken aback by that move to join a small family business to launch a salmon brand, a smoked salmon retail brand.
Yeah.
Les Fumoirs, which is now, in retrospect, looking back, a great journey, and it's now one of the leading smoked salmon brands in the region.
Through that.
That move in itself was a surprise for everyone, because it wasn't the norm. Why would you leave a prestigious job at Nestle and you're moving up the ranks quite nicely and
True.
from an ego perspective, again, how could you? How could you go and sell fish? شو بدك تبيع سمك? You want to
true.
become a fisher, like a fisherman.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, well, no. I'm now stepping into a business where I'm not only looking at one specific piece of the puzzle,
True.
but I'm looking at the whole value chain. And I'm getting exposure to different elements within the business. And the learning curve just went from, quite flat
Stagnant
to
become more exponential.
oh my God, I learned everything from packaging to sales and marketing to finance to, we were a very small shop, a family business, few people. There were moments where I even spent hours inside the smokehouse packing myself packages of smoked salmon and using,
You are in the trenches. This is the beauty,
Yeah.
this is the beauty of trying to push yourself outside your comfort zone, especially if we are used to the corporate world where there is a system, there is a process, but you feel that you are stagnating after a period of time.
but also the reward. Walking. I remember with Jason, who's the managing director of Les Fumoirs, just walking into the shelf of Carrefour and seeing the product on the shelf and seeing a customer walk by and picking it up and going to purchase it. There is a sense of joy that you've created something that is resonating with a random individual customer.
True.
And I think for me, that was the beginning of that taste, of I don't think I could ever go back to corporate again.
Yeah.
I want to build. I want to be part of building something new. And from there, that kind of triggered that move into tech, through different businesses. And the most, I think, rewarding of them all was obviously Careem.
Yeah.
Something about building an organization from scratch, something about not having policies and procedures and
Scrappy modes.
SOPs, something about having to think, okay, how am I supposed to build from nothing? What direction? Where do I begin? That kind of pressure excites me. And I think that's what fueled, at least for me, and I would agree with, and probably many within the Careem organization would agree, that's what kind of fueled our fire.
Yeah.
It was, we'd come to the office. We were so excited that we were also building something that could impact people's lives, that could change the way we moved. Not only yes, it was a transportation business, but beyond that, it was giving access to, women in Pakistan to jobs that were further away because now they could have access to transportation. In Saudi, with women being allowed to drive, it created incredible amount of new roles. So it wasn't just we were building a transportation company, we were impacting and simplifying lives of people. And I think for me, that value, that element was so powerful that I was willing to do whatever needed to be done. I was willing to stay till whatever time. I was willing to roll up my sleeves. I went and I did some dance off against Uber in the streets of Beirut, where other people would assume that or think that it would be humiliating. For me, it was, did it work?
Yeah.
In retrospect, did we fail? Did we succeed? And I think it was, didn't matter. We were going to do whatever needed to be done in order to succeed. And I think the concept of failure didn't exist because, again, failure is time bound, at least in my perspective. And if one thing didn't work, it didn't mean failure. It meant let it not work immediately notice that it won't work and try to fix it. and then try something else. And you keep trying until it does succeed. So for me, that concept of failure is such short-term thinking. There's no such thing as failure. It's ultimately success because you keep trying until it does work.
Do you think it's a mindset to
Yeah.
think about failure like this way? Because everyone like has a perspective about looking into failures.
I think it has a lot to do again with the community that we live in and the perception of failure. Failure, the term failure, you failed, failure, has such a negative connotation behind it. And I think that's been somehow taught to us since we were young. You shouldn't fail. Failure is bad. What does that mean? For me, I think it is a mindset, of course, because I don't believe in failure.
True.
I think failure is a way to look at something within a confined space of time. And it is only failure if you stop at that point in time where it no longer works. But if you continue and something eventually does work, in retrospect, it can never be failure. Failure is a concept that doesn't exist if you continue moving forward.
That's interesting because this is the way that sometimes you look into it and when you link the dots, you realize that these are somehow learnings where you do the adaptation and you come up with something really cool at the end. But in the instant or this current situation, you feel that no, it's a failure. We cannot.
Because we're looking at it in a short period of time.
Exactly.
If I start a business and it does not work, me starting that business not working can be considered failure if I don't go up and start something else or pivot or change and then do something that does eventually work.
That's true.
So if again in the concept of time, if I continue moving and I continue moving forward and I continue growing and I continue developing and I continue bettering myself in the concept of business or even personal, then what is failure? Failure can only be looked at within one maybe chapter, but
One
over a long
instant.
period of time, there cannot be failure so long as I continue moving forward.
That's really interesting perspective. And since we're talking about failure, what's the main career failure that you faced, you remember till today, and what are the learnings out of it?
Maybe into the short term instant, a decision maybe that didn't go my way, or I would say in short term, there are hundreds of failures that happened over time because I'm impulsive and I'm emotional and I operate from my heart. And me leaving Nestle was a 5-second, decision that at that time could have been considered a failure, or me leaving Salmentini could have been considered a failure, or me leaving Sweetheart Kitchen, or me leaving Careem, or any decision I took in my career that led me down a new path, if I only looked at that short term, could be considered a failure. Again, failure is perspective. So when you ask me what is a failure, I've made a lot of mistakes. Oh yeah, made hundreds of mistakes.
Yeah.
But I learned quick. And the idea is if I make a mistake and I keep making that mistake, then I'm in trouble. But if I continue to change or move beyond those mistakes, then I'll tell you, I've had millions of failures. But over time, looking back, I don't consider them failures because of where I am today.
But you mentioned something interesting. I would like to dig deeper on it because you noticed that you've done several mistakes because you have impulsive reaction towards something because you're more emotional, which is nothing wrong in that, in my opinion.
And again, I call them mistakes in that short instant
Absolutely.
of time.
We agreed on the same 100%. But do you think that you have a high sense of awareness that, okay, maybe I've done the mistake now and maybe it will turn to a positive thing in the future?
I think in retrospect, yes, looking back and looking at some of those impulsive decisions that I ended up defining where I am today. Oh yeah, if I had not left Nestle, I would have never been in a position to, or I had never joined Salmentini, or I had never joined Laundry Box, or I had never, all of these were learnings, and they gave me specific tools that eventually led me to Careem and the success we had at Careem, and to a Sweetheart Kitchen and the successes we had early days in Sweetheart Kitchen, and to where I am now and the confidence I have to embark on my own journeys and to support other startups, either through advisory roles or through being a board member or through consultancies. I'm in a place right now where I have, I think, learned specific tools that give me enough confidence to embark on my own entrepreneurial journeys.
Love it.
And so, yeah, man, look, mistakes, impulsive. Yes, I'm impulsive, but I think I'm in tune with my emotions. And if I make a decision to leave a business, it's one of many reasons. Leaving Careem for me was not based on a business decision. At the time, my mom was sick. Me leaving Careem was purely a decision linked to my mother, and that process. But some of the other business decisions, they were based on, either me finding something else that was more in line with what I wanted to do, or purely from a value perspective, me no longer aligning my values or the values of the business that I'm working with were no longer in alignment with my own personal values. And again, we are human, and I'm somebody who really believes in my individuality and my belief systems and my values, and I'm always learning, and I change and I grow and I learn, and as I change and I grow and I learn, and sometimes these change how I want to live my life and in what ways I want to live my life and how I want to impact the world around me. I can change my values and they may no longer align with the business I'm with.
That's true.
And I need to be bold enough and I need to love myself enough and courageous enough to say, look, there's no longer alignment.
Synergy.
There's no longer synergy, man.
See, it's when it comes to the values, I covered this in a previous episode about how you set up your values and how you take your decisions based on the values. But at the same time, you have to be a little bit flexible based on the conditions that you are in.
Yeah, of course.
And what you are aspiring to.
Of course. I mean, if you don't have the financial ability to leave a business on the spot, or you don't have enough seniority or enough a strong enough network, or you don't have, obviously, I would tell you, don't leave your business unless you have a plan B. But you also know yourself. And if you're going to work every day and you feel tense and you feel stressed and you feel suffocated. I mean, you're someone who's made the bold move as well. And you're somebody who I respect and I look up to because you have very strong values and you have strong discipline. And you've made the courageous move to start your own venture. And that's never easy. But you understood that you no longer were aligned with where you were working.
Exactly. It goes back to the values because I did that personal self-assessment several times on the whole situation, and I failed miserably to align it with in the situation that I was in. But again, the aspiration to do something is something linked to the lifestyle that you're look into, and the same time to try to bring value, because what you mentioned, your case in Careem, you started to feel this kind of tangible fulfillment.
I was connected.
I think it's priceless.
I was connected with the mission, with the vision, with the team, the founders, the people within the organization. I mean, it was quite powerful, and now that I've experienced that taste, it's almost like I can never work with anybody else unless those magical elements come together, or I take the lead and do something for myself and try to emulate that kind of impact-driven, values-driven organization, irrespective of what it is, irrespective of what line of industry or what line of business. It's about who you are and how can you translate who you are and the values you represent into the business that you're trying to build and the people that you bring on board.
That requires a high level of self-awareness, and I've been following your journey regarding the activities and the experiences and the retreats you did with Nafas. I would like maybe you shed the lights, because I'm a big fan, and you know a little bit about my lifestyle and the breathing techniques and my daily rituals, etc. But to experience that in like transformational activity, I would love to maybe to share this experience, because I think it adds a lot of value. And to have this kind of self-awareness is stronger.
No, definitely. Look, so my journey, as you know, began when my mother passed away. And I think before that, I hadn't really stopped to think about myself. I was running. When my mother passed away, I was hit really hard. And everything I thought I understood about life, about love, about relationships, about the world, about death. It was almost like my entire world was crumbling. Um, and I had a very strong relationship with my mom. And yeah, I was a bit lost. And, you know, I found this world of self-healing. And I started to embark on, you know, breath work with Walid. Walid Abu Naga is the founder of something called Nafas Journeys. And there was another gentleman, Charles Shaka, who, you know, took me on a spiritual journey to Africa. And I spent, you know, 10 days with the Maasai tribe, learning about their culture, learning about how they viewed life, the simplicity of their life, how they dependent on a blade of grass. And I remember one of their elders, as I was blessed in a blessing ceremony, gave me a blade of grass and he said, hold on to this. And I looked at it, I'm like, what does this mean? And he's like, this is everything. Without grass, we can't herd our cattle. We can't feed. We can't live off the land without this blade of grass. And that's how they live their entire life. It's dependent on the earth, and it's that simple for them.
Yeah.
And that kind of triggered my entire, I would say, transformation, not just my health journey, but also my spiritual journey. You know, I went with Nafas Journeys to Peru. I embarked on various plant medicines. Now, I know these are sometimes controversial. For me, in the right setting with the right people, and I trust Walid with my life, and the people that he's associated with. And, you know, we went and we, you know, ayahuasca, wachuma, changa, kambo, various plant medicines that people may not be aware of. You know, the use of certain kinds of mushrooms. For me, again, these were tools that I needed at that specific time when I was really suffering the most. Mm-hmm. And I believe they were shortcuts. But at the end of the day, you are the medicine. I am the medicine.
Through that.
You are the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And these were tools that we used short term. And then with breath work, again with Walid, I realized that I can reach the same state of awareness, the same state of meditation, of calmness, without anything, just the use of my own breathing. And that kind of, again, reinforced that message of you are the medicine. Yes, you can take certain tools that can aid you in reaching a certain heightened state
of mind, yeah.
You know, a little faster. But at the end of the day, you can do it with meditation. You can do it with breathing, with breath work. And I think for me, that was such a significant moment within the journey that said, you know what? I'm in control.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in life happens for me. Nothing in life happens to me. It's all in my mind. I am the gatekeeper. I can control how I perceive my surroundings and how I respond to my surroundings. I'm in control of how I react to people, how I respond to people. And these are all things that maybe intrinsically I already knew, and that's why I've always been good with people, and I've always loved interacting with people and meeting and learning and loving. But at this specific point in my journey, everything changed. And my relationship with death changed. My relationship with, you know, losing my mother and that grieving process changed. My relationship with, you know, people today, the people I love, everything changed. And I began, all of this changed because my relationship with myself changed. And that was the trigger point. And I think for me, starting to understand myself better, I was then able to understand everybody else. By understanding myself, I could then forgive myself. And by forgiving myself, I can also then forgive everybody else. once I forgave myself, I could start being a little bit more compassionate with myself and loving myself a little bit more. And that gave me an opportunity to start being more compassionate and loving with everybody else around me. And that, for me, was my path to where I am today. I would say the happiest I've ever been, because I'm at peace. I'm at peace with who I am, and I'm enjoying my journey of continuous evolution. And it's tough and it's not easy, and you're always going back and forth. It's not linear. You regress, you take 10 steps ahead, you take 3 steps back, 1 step forward, 4 back, 10 forward.
The growth trajectory is not linear.
No,
it's ups and downs, but if you look into the big picture, you see that it's going uptrend.
And I see that with you and your health journey. And you actually inspired me to a certain extent, seeing you and the consistency and the discipline. And that's something I never had, because I always thought it was short term.
Yeah.
And now I understand that it's constant work.
True.
It's constant work on my health. It's constant work on my mind. It's constant work on my spiritual journey. Always discipline, consistency. Yes, you're going to have bad days. Yes, you're going to have days where you don't want to leave the house. You have days where you don't want to lift a finger. But you tell yourself,
Make peace with that. Yeah, it's part of the process.
It's part of the process.
Exactly.
Don't be upset with that.
True.
It's okay. Just make sure the next day you wake up and you work a little harder.
I love this, because the moment you start to not judging yourself in an incident, it's a paradigm shift to think positively about the incidents and how you manage and you speak with others.
Yeah,
it totally changed.
And that's it. It's about positivity. And now nothing can bother me. Yeah, okay, you can get pissed off, or short things can upset you, or
The triggers will stay.
Triggers will stay, but how you respond to those triggers, like I'll laugh at certain things. I'll get upset at something.
Fair enough.
I'll leave the room. 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh my God, why was I upset? I don't even realize. And then I come back to the room and I'm like, do I need to pretend that I'm still upset? Like, is it okay if I'm not upset anymore? Like, hey guys,
There is interesting, I was reading a book and we shared this in the episode 1. It's called the Chimp Paradox, which is the emotional and the logical brain, or how our brains, and sometimes how the logic take over on the emotional, and most of the time emotion takes over most of the time. So it's like how to tame the balance between that.
Does it ever happen to you where you get upset and you walk out of the room and you're like,
excuse yourself?
I don't even know why I was upset. Was it my ego that responded first? That triggered me. I needed to get upset.
That's true.
I'm not really upset.
But by the way, by realizing this, even like after a couple of minutes, this is where the awareness starts to get better, because when you remember these incidents in the upcoming meetings, you will look into the triggers like in a funny way, and you're not that concerned.
You'll see the same trigger, and you'll be like, in that moment, you'll be like, last time I reacted
That's
like
the
this.
growth mindset. And again, we all fall into this mistake. So
it's almost like you can step out of your body at that moment and be like, last time, look what happened. Remember, you're not really upset at these situations.
It's love it. And again, Adib, you had only the transformation happened basically spiritually, and I've been following the journey. But again, I was really interested recently when you started to focus more on your health.
Yeah.
And this is where, again, my mission now is to as much as we can, especially with the environment of the startup and what's happening now these days, is to make sure that the health is the foundation of everything.
It's interesting because I started doing a lot of these spiritual journeys, and there wasn't a lot of change happening in my life. Then I introduced the physical change. I started going to the gym, I started running, I started walking, I started wearing, the Whoop and the Apple Watch and everything. And as I started to lose weight, I started to feel a little lighter, obviously, started to feel a little better, got a little bit more focused. I realized that they're all connected. And the healthier I was physically, the healthier I was emotionally, the more I could learn spiritually. The more I could learn, the healthier I was spiritually, the more I wanted to be physically stronger, and so forth. And
it's a complete circle.
It's all linked. And the stronger you are physically, the stronger you can be emotionally, the stronger you can be, psychologically, the stronger you can be physically, etc., spiritually.
They are all linked. Yeah, but you felt it.
So I went on and, I lost at the time around 40 kilos. I put on again, it's a not linear.
That's okay, but you're still aware of it,
Yeah,
which is
I
it's
put
a
on
journey.
I put on 5 kilos over the last 2 months, and then I started, my journey again, and I'm making sure that I'm working out every day now, no matter what it is, whether it's weight training, whether it's basketball, whether it's paddle now with more social activities. I've introduced breath work more regularly now, and Nefas, the nice thing is that they do this thing every week, every Saturday or Sunday. They have the online breathworks as well. And sometimes I'm at home and I'm sitting there, breathing heavily, and I'm hoping my neighbors think I'm okay. But it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Yoga. I started doing a lot more stretching. Start doing activities, random activities. I learned how to play with fire the other day.
Okay.
The fire
okay.
performers. No, not kids. Don't try this at home. But learning new activities, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
I'm inspired by your ice baths, and I started doing a little bit more ice baths, not as frequently as you.
Yeah.
I still haven't been able to get that consistent. Man, it's cold.
It's mental, man.
But I the other day I was in there at 1 degrees, which is the coldest I've tried. I managed to stay there for 5 minutes. I thought my leg was gonna break off the first 2, but then again it's your mind.
Yeah.
And these are all techniques. Again, the physical discipline is a test of your mental discipline.
That's true, and this is where I can club everything as a lifestyle. I know there will be a lot of friction at the beginning, especially when you experience all these activities at the beginning. But you will notice, and it was obvious that you felt that okay, if I fix the foundations in these fronts, things will take a better shape, and you'll start I wouldn't say addictive, but becomes this is my lifestyle.
Look, I'm all over the place. I'm super energetic. I want to try everything. You don't have to do one thing every single day.
Absolutely.
And that's what I learned works best for me is I need to do some weight training. I need to do some exercise, some basketball, some running, but as long as you start doing more, then somehow it works.
Yeah. No, it's obvious because I know that you are an elite basketball player.
used to be. My knees don't allow me to be anymore.
Funny enough, you play with another guy, which Careem Shuman, who also has the knees issues. So you are a perfect fit, perfect couple for a basketball player.
In order to play basketball with me, you need to have at least 1 knee brace.
Okay,
that's the rule.
Yeah, I remember that when we played paddle last time. You look like Terminator.
You need at least to have tendonitis. You need to have at least 1 tendon torn in the last 10 years.
but this is what shows me, because again, Adib, I speak with some of my friends that they are injured or having a kind of back pain or spinal issues, which I totally respect. But what really surprised me about you, that you are even consistent despite the fact that this and most of the people that they are, I would say, they're not doing an activity because they have something, and that shows exactly your mindset.
See, what I learned the first time I went recently to the gym and I started doing squats, I told the trainer, I can't do squats, my knees hurt. She's like, if you don't do squats, your knees will always hurt. And so I took that in, and I'm like, oh, she's got a point. If I don't strengthen the muscle, how is it going to stop hurting? And if you work through that pain, again, that pain is short term, and a lot of it is mental. If you don't have a genuine issue, if you don't have a torn, meniscus or a torn ligament, and your pain is pain from joint discomfort, I actually started moving through those pains. And as I got healthier, funny enough, those pains began to disappear. Back problems, I haven't had back problems in over 2 years, thank God, since I started more regularly. Knee problems, I had torn my MCL playing paddle. It healed in a matter of months, and I haven't felt a single piece of pain since then. And again, a lot of it is not just working out, but also how you recover. And this is what I learned from you. It's recovery is just as important as the exercise.
That's true.
And that comes from eating better. That comes from resting more. That comes from doing things like ice baths and stretching and yoga and. So again, it goes back to what your intentions are. And if your intentions are to become better and to become healthier and to live longer and to live better, nothing's going to stop you. Whether your knees hurting or your lower back's hurting, you're going to find some form of exercise. It could be yoga, man. Yoga will help reduce most of my back pain went when I started doing yoga.
See, yoga, again, I'm a big advocate of it. And now I started to introduce it like at least twice per week, because even my physio, when I was doing more into the strength, he told me that chill a little bit on the yoga because this will compromise on the strength, which I totally agree with.
You have to do both.
Exactly. And this is where you can create the balance between using it as a recovery and the duration, not to do this kind of...
I find yoga to be a full workout, man.
That's why I take it easy, like a chill kind of stretching, but like a slight vinyasa kind of 15 minutes, 20 minutes max. Sometimes I do it in the morning along with the breathing techniques and visualization, but not to do it as a practice or like these kind of like different poses like longer, because I don't want to like overstretch my capability, especially under load, which is scientifically, I think it's proven. But there is nothing wrong, because at least will help you out in like eliminating all the tendons or the injuries. Do you have any kind of ritual you are following now? Because I think now you practice nafas and all these activities, which is, as you mentioned, they are shortcut, which I'm all with, because they are a good introductory. But do you have now structured ritual that you do on a daily basis?
You know, I think no, I don't. I should. I know most people, you know, enter the realm of meditation or journaling, or I think for me, it's the only ritual that I have every day is my walk with my dog, Izzy. I wake up every morning and I walk the dog, and then in the afternoon in the evening I walk the dog. And for me, that would be my morning ritual, where yes, I'm walking the dog, but it gives me half an hour to 45 minutes. I don't have my phone. My phone's at home. It's usually around 6 in the morning. There's nobody on the streets. It's me and my dog. Dog usually ditches me the second we hit we hit outside. She finds a piece of grass. I don't exist anymore. And it really allows me that moment where I can reflect. I can just, you know, plan my day, have a think about where I am, what I'm doing, what my plan is. You know, I do have, you know, a lot of people tell me I should build an altar, but I do have a little shelf where, you know, I have a picture of my mom. And every now and then I find it healthy to have a conversation, tell her how things are going, kind of just
feel grounded.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong in that.
No, I think it's quite healthy. But yeah, beyond that, you know, cooking I find as a great
you're a good cook, man.
Meditation.
I had the pleasure to taste your food. It was
look, it's something that it calms me. Being in the kitchen, the sounds, the process, the flow. Basketball, just going and just shooting on my own. Or if I can have the pleasure of a ball boy like Careem, you know, then that's great. Again, there is no right thing. Everybody has their own process. Everybody has their own flow. As long as you give yourself that moment, that time. For me, it so happens to be in the company of my dog. Yeah, I think I should try and introduce something more.
You know what I see your value in, and I would be interested to look into and read writing a book.
You know,
I know a little bit story. It's like I because you're a good writer. I can tell you that.
Look, I enjoy writing, but writing also for me is very draining because when I write, it comes from really my heart, my energy, my soul. And I've written, you know, I was a contributor for Entrepreneur Magazine. I've written a bit for Forbes. I've written for a couple of different articles, and I've always enjoyed it. And I started writing a book. Funny that you bring that up. And
I felt that actually.
I actually want to write about this duality that I, in part of my journey, who I am and where I'm going has always kind of been a back and forth journey. The part of me that loves to party and go out till 6 a.m. and Burning Man, and part of me that loves the spiritual and the calm and the alone time and the inner journey. And I've always struggled between these two worlds. The world where I'm in a kimono and I'm surrounded by beautiful people, and people look at and like, what is he doing? He's a grown ass man. Versus a part of me that's in Bhutan on a Buddhist pilgrimage with the World Happiness Foundation, learning about the essence of happiness. These two worlds, and I've always struggled because I always felt that I need to be one or the other, and I've had this fight, but ultimately within that duality, what I've learned is that there is oneness, and I can be both. And this is part of that understanding of who I am, and part of, in these journeys, what I've learned about myself, and how can I find balance between these two and continue with these two worlds. So in this duality, find that or understand that there is oneness.
I think a lot of people will resonate with this story because I know for a fact a lot of people that they are facing this, despite the fact if they are
because they think they need to be one or the other.
But that's basically, it's a self-discovery. But you realize that it's okay to be both of them. Enjoying the life in the sense, okay, I'm experiencing the good and bad in this, and the good and bad in this.
As long as you stay true to yourself in both worlds, and you realize that there are different versions of you in different environments. There are different things that you enjoy, and we all enjoy multiple things.
True.
But to be confident and to be... The problem is we feel, again, and I think this is ego, maybe uncertain, or it's wrong to do this, or it's wrong to do that, or it's never wrong to be you.
It's a self-discovery. And
so long as you're being truly yourself in each of these moments,
that's true.
Man, enjoy it. Make the most of it. There's Adib, the social loves everybody. There's the Adib that doesn't want to leave his house and doesn't want to see anybody and wants to sit at home with his dog and watch TV all day. And there's the Adib that wants to write, and there's the Adib that wants to play, and we all have these different parts of ourselves.
I feel with you, man. This is where I believe that it's you have a nice story to tell, and you are still experiencing both worlds. So I'm sure that a lot of people that they will resonate. They will be more related to the struggles you've been through, and what are the challenges, and of course the experiences that you are now basically going through.
I think people think too much, and when they think too much, and that's what I learned. The more I learn, the more I realize that in order for you to learn more, you need to start thinking less, and you need to just be, and you need to observe yourself in that moment of being, and be okay with yourself in that moment of being. You got to be in the present and understand how you respond and how to react, but stop overthinking things. I think people in general overthink, and when they overthink and overanalyze, they begin to make judgments. We are individuals, and we have certain reactions to certain things, and it's okay. There are no rules. There is no one right way of being. For me, I'm still discovering myself every day, every moment. Right now, maybe I'm saying things that are coming out for the first time in my head.
Subconsciously.
And I'm hearing them, and as I hear them, I'm saying, nice one. Or, did I really want to say that? But we're learning. And I think we need to be okay with ourselves in that process. And we need to stop judging ourselves and everybody else in that process. I'm not used to doing podcasts, and maybe I don't do a great job, or maybe I do, or we need to stop overthinking.
I'm sure that a lot of people that will love to hear your thoughts, Adib, especially me, because we had several times we had a lot of deep conversations, and every time I feel fascinated by how your brain is wired on an actual basis, not just from the articulation of your ideas. But yeah, fascinating journey, man. And I don't think that our conversation will end. But
No,
yeah,
man.
it's
Look at and even you, bro. Like I love that you're doing this. You're doing podcasts that, we both started from a corporate space. And I love looking at. And this is the other thing. I love looking at people that I love growing in their own space and on their own journeys. Your journey and my journey are totally different.
True.
We have our own paths, but we're on those paths. And I love that we're able to intersect at this specific point and have that conversation. And I am almost overly excited to see where this can continue.
It will go to interesting places, and I love you for that, Adi, because
man.
you always bring value in every conversation we have. What's next for Adib now?
Oof, a lot of things. I think obviously my continued journey of self-discovery. I think the more I learn about myself, the more I know nothing, and the more I want to learn. It's counterintuitive, but I'm an adventurer and I'm inquisitive, and I want to learn more about the world and myself and everybody else. So that'll always continue. I do want to continue on my health journey. I do want to become stronger physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So that will continue. From a work perspective, I am embarking on a new journey. I'm super excited about that.
Me too.
Yeah, it's, continue trying new things, continue learning, continue making mistakes and growing from those mistakes. Whether it's through work, whether it's in relationships, love, hopefully I stop making mistakes with love and I can, eventually settle down.
I cannot ensure that.
I got a lot of love to give, man, but hopefully, I would love to give it all to the right person.
You will.
And start a family and, have my own kids that I can love and protect. And
I really look forward for that.
Yeah, man.
I'm sure you'll love. You'll find your love of life.
I see how you are with your kids, and just now with Adam coming in and him asking you about how to focus on his bicep. I'm like, I love that interaction, because I see that connection and I see that love, and yeah, man, it's something that I cherish in others, and I'd love to see myself one day embark on that journey as well. I think for me, the spiritual journey at some stage is a personal growth, an individual growth, but I also am a strong believer that the next step for my enlightenment is through divine unity, and is in growing and learning, not just on my own, but in partnership with somebody else who has that same ambition and that same inquisitive nature to grow and to learn and
you have
build.
You have a pure heart, Adib, and I'm sure that you'll find the right person to go with your journey. Where people can find you, Adibo?
Anywhere, man. I'm always playing basketball in Zabil district on top of Dubai Mall. But now, I'm working a lot. I'm trying to, they can find me just, anywhere. I'm accessible, man. Online, not online, on the streets, running around trying to get things done.
I'll put your contact details and your handles, because I'm sure people will connect with you.
Oh,
Adibo,
that's
again, as I mentioned, our conversation will never end,
No.
and we'll definitely catch up for another conversation. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please, if you have any comment on the show, how we can improve it, I would love to hear your thoughts. And Superhuman Switch Podcast. Thank you very much, Adib.
Thank you, man. I love it.
Love it too. Take care.
Thank you.